Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
How are you guys?
Tired.
Okay. Okay, if it's possible, if you have a good connection, can you turn on your camera so I can see your face? If you have problem with connection, okay, no problem. But if your connection is good, can you open your camera and turn off your microphone, please? Just open the microphone when you want to speak. Okay. Okay, so before we start our lesson today, let's pray. Pray, begin. Amin. Okay, good. Let's see now how many students here. So we have 15 to 13 students here. Still have many of you not joining. Okay, no problem. So as usual, I'm going to share you the attendance list, attendance link, so you can fill your attendance.
Yes, sir.
So please go to your chat room. Okay, I share already the attendance. Please everybody fill in the attendance as usual. All right. All right. Finish. Okay, good. Let's start our lesson today. Now, let's see how many students here. We have 16 students. Still 4 of your friend, or 19 students in this class now, isn't it? Or 20 students still. I think it's 19 students now, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. This is lesson number 4 video conference after you did your GCR lesson lesson number 3. You did the GCR and you did the assignment about the identifying chemicals in your daily life. Okay, almost all of you already submit your answer, and I already checked your answer, and I returned back the score to you. You can check your score in your Google Classroom. Okay, like I told you last lesson, in this lesson, I'm going to continue explaining about the branches of chemistry. Because in the last lesson, I told you that not all the branches I explained because we don't have much time. So that's why today, before we continue with the next part of the lesson, we are going to continue. We are going to continue first with the branches of chemistry. Okay. So we are going to move back to our lesson before about the branches of chemistry. Yes, lastly, we stop in here. Do you remember what branch of chemistry this picture show you?
Apa?
This picture
Nuclear,
shows you about the
nuclear
Nuclear
chemistry,
chemistry.
nuclear
nuclear
chemistry.
chemistry.
Yes. Okay. Or radioactive chemistry. The other name of nuclear chemistry is radioactive chemistry. This is the last branches that I explained to you. So today we are going to continue with the next one. So if we want to review the branches of chemistry, so we have biochemistry, and then we have organic chemistry, and then we have analytical chemistry, and then we have physical chemistry, and then electrochemistry. This is thermochemistry, and the last one we talk about nuclear chemistry or radioactive chemistry. Okay, for today we are going to start the first one with this picture. Okay, as you can see from the picture, there are some salt and mineral, batuan dan mineral. Okay, salt or garam, it is salt, yeah, and it is mineral. So this kind of thing also contain chemicals, and this one is studied in the branch of chemistry called as inorganic chemistry. So in the previous lesson, we talked about organic chemistry, which is related with the something that coming from the living thing. So organic chemistry is something that related with the living things. And the one which is not related with the living things, we are going to study that substances in the inorganic chemistry. So for example, we have stone, mineral, we have salt. So those kind of things also contain chemical, and we are going to learn the properties, the usage or the reaction in the salt, in the mineral, in the inorganic chemistry. Okay, so this is also another branch of chemistry. Another one is what we can see from this picture. What do you understand from this? It's about what?
Gas.
It's about?
Gas.
Gas. Okay, now you have sun there, we have also plant, and we have some smoke from the factory and from the car. We're talking about, actually this is about atmosphere, so we're talking about the environment actually. So environment is also one of the big issue in the world now. So chemistry have a very close connection with the environment, and that's why we have a branch of chemistry we call as environmental chemistry. Even though we have also environmental technique or engineering in the university, and also it's related with chemistry, environmental chemistry. This is very important. So it's talking about the waste of the chemical waste, or it's talking about the pollution, the dangers of the pollution, and about many things that are related with the environment. So the branch of chemistry that study about the environment, we call it environmental chemistry. Another one, I think you're familiar with this thing, even though in your assignment in lesson number 3, some of your friends put some medicine as their product. So they will, they saw what is inside the medicines. Mostly they are choosing paracetamol, for example. Some of you maybe doing some comic, for example, for cough medicines. So medicine is also one of the thing that's related with the chemistry, as we know. There are many chemicals in medicines, and that's why we have to study medicine in chemistry. We call this one as a pharmaceutical chemistry. Pharmaceutical chemistry, the chemistry that study about the medicines. As we know that in Bahasa we call it pharmacy, so it's pharmaceutical chemistry. The next one, what do you see in this picture?
Pupuk kayaknya, Pak.
Yes, it is fertilizer. Yes, it's fertilizer. It is used to grow the plant, so to make the plant growing in a good way. growing well, we are using fertilizer. So as we know that fertilizer is very important in agricultural country like Indonesia. So we are agricultural country. There are so many agricultural work that we did in our country. That's why fertilizer is one of the most important thing in our country. So that's why agricultural chemistry, which is study about the connection between the chemistry with the agricultural things, is very important. If you go to IPB, Institute Pertanian Bogor, you will understand that chemistry have a big role in that university because we have agricultural chemistry. So this is also another branch of chemistry. So as we can see here, chemistry is interrelated with all other sciences, and we can simply say that chemistry in everything. Everywhere you can see chemistry. But the most important, you have to know which part of chemistry it is, which branch of chemistry it is studied. So that's why those things are important. So what I try to explain to you is the side of a side of product, but you have to see that side by chemistry, chemistry eye. So you're going to see, for example, if I'm seeing my glass here, I have to see this from chemical part. So I see water here. So water is included in what? It is in organic chemistry or organic chemistry or any other branch of chemistry. So that's why after you study this one, I hope you can see everything with the eyes of chemistry. Okay. Okay. As you can see here, those things are very familiar to you, and those things are containing chemistry, containing chemicals. Sorry, and we learn all that thing in chemistry. This is what we did in lesson number 3. We did the observation of chemicals in your daily life equipment, daily life substance that you use, and most of you did this. Very good. So now we come to the lesson 4 actually. The real lesson 4. So lesson 4 actually, the thing that I want to explain in lesson 4 is scientific methods. So as we know that chemistry is one of the science. Okay, chemistry is one of the science. So when you want to study chemistry, then you have to know the scientific ways or method to observe something. So you will not observe something by normal ways. If you want to become a chemistry student, then you have to see the thing in a chemistry eyes, and chemistry is a science, so that's why you have to know scientific ways or scientific methods. I think you are familiar with this one, scientific method. There are some steps that you have to follow when you are talking about scientific methods. Let's see what are those steps. Okay, take a look at this picture. What you see in this picture?
Car.
Is it car? Okay.
Car.
What else?
Car that has rust in it.
Corrosive core.
Yeah.
Rusty core.
Rust.
Car
Rusty
that
core.
has rusting. Let's say that is rusting. Another word for rusting is corrosion. In chemistry, we call it corrosion. Rusting and corrosion is the same. In Bahasa, we call as karat. So when you look at this picture with the eyes of chemistry, then you are going to see it is a corrosion or rusting, isn't it? Okay, what do you think? What is the cause of the rusting? What make this car is rusted?
Metal
Oxygen and
oxidation.
water.
Water and what? Metal
Water
oxidation.
Oxygen.
Oxygen, right? Water and oxygen. Good. So the main reason or the main cause of the corrosion is water and oxygen. I think everybody know this. And that's why when you are doing scientific method, so you have to see it like that. When you see the corrosion, you are going to see that this is caused by this, by this, by this, by this. For this example, this corrosion is already known. But in some of the example, it may be not known. Yeah, if it is not known, then you have to research about that one. So when you're doing a research, you have to do a new things, do things that we don't know or the world don't know. That's what the objective of the research. So you have to do a new things. I'm going to give you an example for this lesson by using rusting or corrosion. Actually, rusting and corrosion is not new things, already known by people in the world. But I'm using this one just for example to explain you how to do the scientific method. Now you are imagine that we don't know anything about rusting, but we see this problem. So imagine that we don't know about rusting, but we see this problem. Oh, there is a problem in my car. There's a rusting here and there's corrosion here. So what next come to your mind? If you don't know anything about rusting, what should you do?
Research.
You're going to research it. You are
Observation.
asking question. How I can prevent this rusting? How I can solve this problem, isn't it? So this is a problem. Rusting is a problem, and it's a big problem for my car. So I have to solve it. I have to make something not rusting. How I can make it? And I have to know what is the reason? What is the cause? Why make my car is rusting? What's the problem with this? So this is the thing that we ask myself, and we have to find the answer. So actually, the thing that you do is the first step of scientific method. What is the first step of scientific method? Is identifying the problem. So you identify the problem. By doing observation, you are identifying the problem. You observe your car, there is a rusting there, and you identify the problem. There is something wrong there. I have to fix it. I have to solve it. And the next thing is you have to state the problem. You have to say the problem. What is the problem? The problem is rusting. The problem is corrosion. So you're going to state it. After that, you're thinking, oh, how I can solve this one? If I want to know how to prevent this corrosion, then I have to know the cause of this corrosion. What makes this car corroded? Okay, so we imagine that we don't know that it is caused by the water and oxygen, but we have to think like that. We have to think that what is the cause of this corrosion and how I can solve this problem. So this is the first step of scientific method, which is called as identifying the problem. Okay, after we know the problem, the next step is in the big big roof of science, we call it a hypothesis. You have to make a hypothesis. Do you know hypothesis? What is hypothesis in bahasa?
Kemungkinan.
Hypothesis.
Hipotesis
Dugaan,
kemungkinan.
temporary answer, the answer of your question. You ask question before, right, to solve your problem. So this is yes, hypothesis is teori sementara. Temporary answer, jawaban sementara. It is not a theory. It is a temporary answer. So you answer it. For example, we imagine that we don't know the cause of the corrosion. So we made a hypothesis. This corrosion is made by the water. This is my first hypothesis. So this corrosion is made by water. Imagine that you don't know that this is a true hypothesis. So what I do after I know the problem, I identify the problem, I state the problem, and then the next one is I say that the problem is because of the water. So this is my hypothesis. Corrosion is caused by the water. But of course, before I came to the hypothesis, I have to know first, what is corrosion? Theoretically, you have to know the theoretical framework of this problem. What is corrosion? What is water? If I'm talking that the cause of the corrosion is water, I have to know what is water. So these two things I have to know beforehand, before I'm stating my hypothesis. So before I'm stating my hypothesis, I have to research first about the corrosion, what already known about the corrosion up to now, what people say about the corrosion, what the world know about the corrosion, and about the water itself. Because I say that, I'm going to state that in my hypothesis, corrosion is made by water. It's caused by water. So theoretical framework must be done first before you state the hypothesis. After you do the theoretical framework, then you state your hypothesis, and the hypothesis must be logical and based on the fact. You cannot just say that the hypothesis is because of the food, for example. If there is no food in the car, there is no relation between car and food, but you say that the hypothesis is the corrosion is because of the food. This is not logical and not based on the fact. But you have to do your hypothesis. You have to state your hypothesis based on the fact and the logical things. Okay. So this hypothesis, after you state your hypothesis, for example, our hypothesis is corrosion is caused by the water. This is our hypothesis. And then the next step is I have to prove it. I have to prove my hypothesis. Either it is true or not. If it is true, then I'm going to make a report for this. If it is not true, then I have to make also a report, and after that I have to find another hypothesis. Isn't it? So what we do to prove our hypothesis? Anyone knows?
Doing experiment.
Doing experiment
Very good.
and make the
Okay.
conclusions.
The next step is after we state the hypothesis, to prove the hypothesis, what you should do is the conducting the experiment. Okay. Now in our example, we are talking about corrosion, right? We are going to find whether the water is causing the corrosion or not, because our hypothesis is water is causing the corrosion, or corrosion is caused by the water. So I'm going to prove that. I'm going to prove that hypothesis. So I'm setting my experiment. What I'm doing, so I set 3 different glass with 3 nails. Sorry, not 3 different, yeah, 3 same glasses. The glass are the same. 3 same glasses and 3 same nails. The nail are the same, the glass are the same, so I have 3. Not 4, yeah, 3. This is just the illustration. So I put the nail inside the glass. So I put 3 nail into 3 different, 3 same glasses. And I put these 3 glasses in the same room. Okay. Okay. And then what I'm doing, I pour full of water in the first glass. I pour half of water in the second glass, and I'm not pouring any water in the third glass. So this is I'm doing to know whether the water is really the cause of the corrosion. So I'm going to observe what will happen to this. So this is the setting of my experiment. So when doing experiment, there are some of the things that you have to know, some of the things that you have to follow. Okay, what are those things? Let's see. When doing the experiment, you have to be familiar with the name of variables. You have to know it's in detail. What is variables? You are going to play with the variables in the experiment. What is variable? Variable is the thing that can be set in an experiment. So everything that you set in the experiment, it is called as a variables. For example, in our experiment, can you tell me what are the variables in here?
Water.
Amount of water.
The amount of water, good. What else?
Glass.
Okay, the shape of the glass, it is also the variables. What else?
And nails. Same nails.
Nail.
Okay, the shape of the nails also is the variables. What else?
Nail.
The nail. Okay, one more thing.
Somewhat. Time. Same water. Same water.
Maybe the room. Okay, the weather in the room, you made it the same, so it is also the one of the variables. And one more variable which is very important, the one that we want to focus. What variable is it?
Oxygen.
Oxygen not. Oxygen is the room. The room is
The
containing air.
The time.
Time. We're not talking about the speed of the rusting, but we're talking about the cause of the rusting. So what are the most important one? The variable rusting itself. Corrosion itself is the variable. Okay. Pengaratannya sendiri adalah variable. So the rusting as itself is the variable. So we have many variable here. So if I'm stating here, we have the rusting, which is the one that we want to prove. This is also the variable. The shape of the nail, the shape of the glass, the room that we use in the experiment, it's contain the same air, so the same oxygen. So this is also the variables. And the amount of water poured in the glass is also a variable. There are many other things, many other variables we can write down in this experiment. But those are the things that familiar with this experiment. Okay. So this is important variables. We have different type of variables. Let's see now the category or the classification of variables. The first type of variable we call as independent variables. What is independent variables? Independent variables, the keyword for independent variable is changeable. You can change it. Okay? The variable that you can change, it's called as the independent variable. In our example, what are the independent variables?
Water.
Water.
Get
Water.
the amount of water. The amount of the water is the independent variable
Independent
because you
variable.
change it. In the first treatment, it is full of water. In the second treatment, half of water, and then in the third treatment, no water. So the amount of water is changing from one treatment to another treatment. So that's why the amount of water is the independent variables. Okay. The second classification of variable we call as dependent variables. What is the important in dependent variables? Dependent variable is the variable that you want to focus in. The one that you want to measure, you want to focus, you want to see the changing in that variables. Okay, so the main focus on the experiment is the dependent variables. What do you think the dependent variable of our experiment?
Corrosion.
Rusting.
Yes.
Rusting.
Rusting or the corrosion is the dependent variable because I want to know whether the water is causing the corrosion or not. Okay, so the corrosion is the dependent variables in our experiment. Good, very good. So rusting is the dependent variables. And the third one we call as a control variables. Control variables, the key word for control variable is remain constant. So if the variable is not changing from one treatment to another treatment, then that variable we call as the control variables. What are those control variables in our experiment? It is shape of the nail. Is it the same, right? The shape of the nail. The shape of the glass, it is the same. So it is a control variables. And the room that you use, they are put in the same room. So it is also a control variables. So we have three type of variables, which is independent variables, the one which is changing, dependent variable, the one which is we focus on, and the control variables, the one which is remain constant or the same during the treatment. So this one is very important. In Bahasa, we call these three variable as variabel bebas, variabel terikat, dan variabel control. Okay. Variable control is controlled variable. Variable bebas is independent variables. Variable terikat is dependent.
Dependent.
After we conduct the experiment, we will have data, right? For example, in our experiment, we have three different treatments, so we are going to have a data. So from that data, we are going to analyze it. The next step is analyze the data. Okay? How to analyze it? We have to know what is our hypothesis, and we are going to see whether our hypothesis is proved or not. If it is proved, then we can continue to the another step. If it is not proved, then you have to make another hypothesis to make it prove. So your hypothesis is not true, so you will make another hypothesis. Okay? So analyze is very important. In this example, for example, you will have the data for treatment 1, what will happen, the corrosion is happening. In treatment 2, corrosion is very slow. In treatment 3, you cannot see the corrosion easily. So from that one, we understand that water is the cause of the corrosion from my analyze. After I analyze, I can conclude like that. Okay, after we did the analyze, then at the last, we are going to conclude it. It is conclusion. The conclusion is corrosion is caused by the water. This is my conclusion. Okay, after we know the conclusion, at the end, we are going to communicate the results to the audience. So there are so many type of communication. Either you make a report for your experiment, or you make a presentation for your experiment, or you make a conference for explaining the result of the experiment. So this is the last step of the scientific method we call as a communicate the results. So I think for today this is enough. So if I want to conclude what we saw today, we talk a little bit about the another branches of chemistry. So we talked it before in the previous lesson, but now we add some more information about the branches of chemistry, like inorganic chemistry, like environmental chemistry, like pharmaceutical chemistry, like agricultural chemistry. Those are the things also we call as a branches of chemistry that we learn in chemistry also, and they have a connection with the chemistry. So this is what we learn, and then the next one we learn about the scientific method, because we study chemistry. So chemistry is a science. So we have to follow the scientific method to learn the topic in chemistry. What are those scientific methods? There are some steps that you have to follow in the scientific method. The first one is you have to identify the problems. You're going to see what is the problem by your observation, and then after you identify, you state it, what is the problem. This is the problem, and you ask the question, what can I do to solve this problem? So this is identifying the problem, and then after that, we're going to state the hypothesis, which is a temporary answer of my problem. In the stating a hypothesis, of course, first you have to know the theoretical framework of the problem that we stated. For example, the problem with corrosion is you have to know the theoretical part of the corrosion, and then the theoretical part of the water itself, that we make the hypothesis that the water is the cause of the corrosion. After you know the theoretical part, and then you will state the hypothesis, and it must be logical and based on the fact. And after that, you will prove your hypothesis by conducting experiment. Conducting experiment, of course, there are some rules that you have to follow. You have to know the variable that you are going to use. Variable is the one which is you set in the experiment. There are three types of variable. We call it the first one, independent variables, the variable that you can change it, independent variable. And then the second one we call as a dependent variable, or the variable that you focus on. You are going to observe the variable that you want to observe is a dependent variable. And the last one is control variable, so the variable you make it constant. So when you make it constant, it did not change. Yeah, so this is controlled variables. Do you have any question?